Hello. Oh. Whoa. No, what? No, I don't want that. I like this this pause image. Very nice. Very nice. Oh man, I haven't been able to look at any PoE2 stuff today. I wanted to look at the build yesterday, but I haven't really bothered. Haven't had time for that. There was one thing I wanted to look at before I do this. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do want to move stuff around, but I also want to... there's apparently one called this. I can type. Hold on. Hope everyone's doing well. We're like halfway through this week, right? It's almost launch. Very exciting. Yeah, this would have been sick, but it only supports spells. So nothing new here. Cool. Yeah, so that one. And then we have, I would like to make, if possible, the devs oath. We'll see if that will work. No idea how, without the chest. But there are a few interviews I haven't seen. Most of them are quite long, but this one, I believe it's from yesterday, right? Yeah, 1 day ago. On IGN is actually quite short. It's like 40-ish minutes, so that's cool. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, he's looked at some comments, Exile-like games. Funny. A bunch of interviews. Yeah, I mean, people seem very positive, so I want to watch this one, see what this one is. And then I actually want to look at the Ascendancies, because they released it. I woke up this morning and they had just released the Ascendancies. So I want to look at Pathfinder. I'm very curious when it comes to the poison bottle, because I assume it's like poison concoction, but not really. So, because I don't think poison concoction. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't exist, does it? No. Like none of them. Like the explosive one, yeah, no. Explosive shot. Oh, we have that. That's cool. Oh wait, explosive. Wait, it's called arrow, right? I guess we don't have that one. That was a. I played that build once. I remember. Exploding arrow. Was it? Explosive. Yeah, interesting. Knocks back enemies. Yeah, I guess you can't do that. Okay, that's fine. All right, let's watch the IGN interview. I'm very curious. So this one is a bit different, I guess. You know, it's not really community. It's IGN, and the title is "What an ARPG Needs to Succeed." Yeah, I'm very curious. Let's see. Have a look.
Path of Exile 2 has everybody hyped, myself included, for the December 6th release of the beta.
Yep.
Now, I've been very fortunate in that I've gotten a few opportunities to play it over the last year. I've played the Witch, I've played the Ranger, I have played the Mercenary.
I want to play it, man.
I can't wait to dive in and play the beta. That said, at all of the preview opportunities, I had the chance to sit down with Jonathan Rogers, the game director, and ask him a few questions. Now, I've never released these interviews before, but I thought I would do so right now to get some thoughts from him about Path of Exile, about the games industry, and what he thinks.
This sounds interesting.
What's keeping people into Path for over 10 years and excited about Path 2? What do you focus on to keep that going?
I really think that it's being unafraid of innovation. I think a lot of game companies, and especially as they get larger, they start to get very sort of dried in the wool, and it even happens within
True.
the studio. Like quite frequently, I propose a change and I get a lot of pushback from people because, oh, this is the way we've always done it, you know, that kind of thing. And just even from that, like, I don't think it's even necessary, like, you know, because people.
I mean, humans don't like change, right? So I guess it makes sense. But I like that he's also talking about the games industry, because I completely agree with that. And I even saw this morning X Defiant is actually going to shut down, which was the Ubisoft Call of Duty killer or whatever.
Talk all the time about how, oh, you know, budgets get large and people get risk averse. I don't even think that's necessarily even the largest pressure. I think that what it is that even internal to the studio, you know, a lot of people get used to how things are. They want things to stay the same. Like many people who work for a game company are fans of the game, and so you get that same pressure of like, oh, you know, we can't change our flasks work, we can't change this, we can't change that. You know what I mean?
I wonder if he's going to bring this up, but I always found that interesting. Like, okay, when people say that, like, because I'm a developer as well, when people say we can't change it, it's like, why? Because, I mean, in this case, they're making the sequel. Why would you not change it? You have the ability to change it. Why can't you change it? So that's interesting.
And so we just have to really try to push through that. And so a lot of the time in the studio, what I'm doing is
Arguing.
I'm saying to people, you know what? Like, even if you don't like this, we're going to try it. And if it's bad, then it's bad. And we'll just do
I like
something
that.
else.
That's a good approach.
It's worth trying to like, do different things. And I think that served us well. And every time we've taken risks, it's paid off, right? And every time that we've been risk averse, I think it hasn't gone as well for us.
Why do you sort of stand out right now in the industry? I think about how you handled a recent difficult decision, I have to imagine, to delay the beta from November to December. Well, let me rephrase the question. How did you decide to handle the delay in that manner?
Well, first of all, delaying a game is very, very difficult because there are so many people who want to tell you that it can't be done. And the reason they want to say that is because they're like, oh, you know, we're going to have to lose this deposit on this marketing thing, and we're going to have these server costs, and we're going to have this, that, right? So it ends up costing a lot of money. So it's a very difficult decision to make. And plus, there's also just disappointing the players, and everyone's afraid of that, and that's really hard. But at the same time, we just kind of got to the point where it was untenable not to delay because the risks were starting to get too high. But I think the really most important thing is just being honest with people, not appearing,
Actually,
you know, like, for lack of a better word, like a corporate drone.
Be transparent.
You want to actually just be honest and tell people exactly, you know, why did we come to this decision, what actually happened there. And I think that, you know, like every time we've ever been honest with the players, I think that's been something that's been really good. So, you know, that's where it comes from, really. Like, we just told people exactly why it was. We didn't kind of mince words or kind of, you know, like trying to be vague. Like, you know, here is the exact thing that caused us to delay the game. We'll tell the players that, and they'll hopefully be understanding of that.
And I think it's received really well. I watched a different announcement from a different company, and it was all over the place. And then I watched yours, very succinct. You take responsibility, you apologize, and then you put it out there. And I as a player, really appreciated that because I am looking forward to the November date.
I mean December,
what's
right?
the biggest issue facing the overall industry right now, in your opinion?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I mean,
a lot of things. I wonder if he's going to bring all of them up. I'm very curious to hear this take.
It's interesting because I think AAA gaming is kind of in a weird place right now.
Yeah.
Like, we're kind of in this weird, like maybe this is not the right, sort of AA territory where it's like we're in this kind of position where like we're not like one of the giant mega studios, so that we kind of haven't inflated to the point where it becomes difficult to even make anything. But we're also definitely not in the classification of what you would call an indie game either. So I think that's kind of interesting because there's just not a lot of huge things in that area.
I feel like a lot of people in the PoE community see them as an indie developer. I'm pretty sure that's what I've seen, but it's interesting to see that it's different. We see it like they don't see them as the indie devs anymore, which makes sense.
And really, I mean, that stuff we talked about the ossification of game development, like in AAA, it's just really, really bad at this point, right? Like, there's definitely very little risk taking. There's kind of not a lot of that going on. But at the same time, you know, there aren't a lot of those kind of indies coming up and sort of entering the big leagues either. And so it's just something that's kind of been a trend for quite a while. You've kind of got the small games and you've got the big games. There's very little in the middle. So I think Path of Exile really is kind of in that sort of space. They're one of the few games that kind of is in that type of area.
Like right in the middle.
Yeah, exactly, right. You know, so we get to have like kind of nice graphics and a nice budget and all that sort of stuff, but we also get to still be innovative and like do interesting things that other companies aren't doing. I really don't know how to sort of reclaim that middle again and sort of have the game industry have that kind of stuff again. And I think that really is challenging for the industry. Like it used to be that there were a lot of what you might call AA games,
Yeah.
and I kind of don't know where it all went. Like, why do we now in this position where
I feel like most of those studios were bought up, weren't they? Maybe they actually shut down, but I have a feeling most of them were bought up or something, and then they don't get to do that anymore.
you've got the like ultra AAA stuff, which is kind of very stolid and kind of
Quadruple
not really
A.
going anywhere. And then on the other end of the side of things, you've got like the indies where you know it can be hard to get the broader audiences, and you know like I just don't know how you get that middle back.
Do you feel like there's been an over prioritization put on graphics?
Well, you know, that's an interesting one. I think graphics are important. They
Yeah.
actually set, like, there is definitely evidence that people appreciate a game more when graphics are a thing, but at the same time, like,
I agree with this, but I also feel like players or gamers still judge a game way too harsh from the graphics alone. I find it really annoying, personally. Like, I don't care. Like, yeah, sure, it's nice if it looks good, but like, it's not gonna keep me playing the game if the gameplay sucks. I don't know.
you can do that stuff more efficiently if you're clever. And I understand it sort of may look like, you know, part of the reason why AAA budgets have inflated so much is because, you know, of what they're doing with graphics. But at the same time, I do think that a lot of what they're doing, like you can do good-looking graphics by taking advantage of modern hardware without tying yourself into a process that leads to like a very expensive development process that I think some studios have. Like we're able to produce a game with 100 bosses and like 800 monsters without having to, you know, fall into the trap of having to have a team that's like absolutely thousands and thousands in size. Like it can be done. It's just a question of
efficiency,
correct prioritization,
workflow.
the way that you do it. So I think it can be done. And as I said, players do value graphics. Like it's important. Like when people are looking at impressive boss fights, part of what they're looking at is the good animation and all the sort of work that we put into that. It's part of the spectacle and the charm. So you know, like a lot of people do say graphics aren't important. I actually don't agree. I think they are important, but then at the same time, you have to be very careful not to waste time doing things. You know, like sanding under the drawers is what they would Pixar I think used to say. You know, when you don't need to be doing that. You know, when you can be concentrating on the stuff that's actually, you know, put the budget on the screen as it were, as opposed to just wasting a lot of time with things that people just don't really notice.
I'm not gonna mention it. I work with people, and I still work with a few like people that actually do this. You have to like tell them to like that's not important. For them, it's important because they're the ones that see it. But players are literally never gonna notice. Like, you have to move on.
Do you think Path of Exile 2 is going to be able to dethrone Banana Game on Steam charts?
That's
Oh
a tricky
my
question.
God.
I think that when we go into full release, I think that there's a very good chance that we could end up topping the charts. But
it's free to
you know,
play, yeah.
for early access, I'm not so sure. I guess we're going to see. I really have no idea what kind of concurrency we're going to get for early access. Like on the one hand, you know, like it is a big. I think it's going to be a big, you know, tentpole release. On the other hand, you know, it is early access, right? Like a lot of people might be afraid to jump in for that reason.
Yeah.
But I guess the message to those people would be that, you know, we are a game that has the content of what a full AAA game would have these days, and we're also a much lower price point than what those games would be. So even though, you know, it's early access, I think that the value proposition is incredibly there, and I think we should be able to see some pretty big numbers on launch of early access as well. But
Yeah,
certainly when
definitely.
we get to full release, I'm sure we're going to be topping the charts. I see no reason why we wouldn't be.
Confident, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, well, we're certainly going to buy enough servers for that.
I hope so.
When
Yeah.
you're making a game, what's the most important consideration a developer needs to have when crafting the experience? What needs to be top
Oh my
of the
God.
priority list?
It's honestly a very difficult question
Yeah.
because of the fact that a good game, is the culmination of getting every little tiny detail right, and it really is that defeat in detail, I think, that makes games feel bad. And the amount of effort, it honestly takes a lot of experience to get to the point where people even know what good looks like. I think that, once again, a lot of AAA games these days are getting defeated in detail, right? Like it's all of the little things that add together to an experience that that isn't good.
Complete
rather
picture
than it being just like
experience.
one big issue. And I guess a lot of people, when they're analyzing games and why they're not doing well, they want to focus on, oh, it's because of this thing, and you know, this big issue, it's because of that big issue. But
It's a really cool background, by the way. I wish I could see the whole thing. That's pretty sick.
I I really think that gameplay comes down to getting 1,000 small details
Templar?
right, and if you do that, then the experience will be good. And it's honestly, like, I think even
MTX.
we underestimated what it would take to ship Path of Exile 2, because like just getting all those details right and like getting all those things, like it was very easy to be overconfident, especially at first when we were marketing the game. Because making a fresh game means getting all those details right again, and getting all the we were really overconfident about itemization. Like it took a lot of iteration to get to the point where that was working. Like we thought, oh yeah, we'll just take PoE1, make a few changes, and then we're good. No, like it required like a huge amount of extra work. Like all of those things, and like you get one thing wrong, and immediately someone will have a bad experience, and they'll say that your game is bad. So it really is all those details that are required to get it done. So yeah, I honestly couldn't point to one thing. It's just like 1,000 things, but correct, and knowing what those are.
Yeah, I remember the old philosophy. I think it was Bungie who said it, like the 3 seconds of fun or something like that.
Sure.
Is that still one of the main things that you?
Well, I mean, sure, it's absolutely relevant, right? Like you need to make sure that at every moment you are enjoying the experience that you're having, and
second to second.
As I said, any one thing can destroy that. So you need to be very careful. I mean, in some ways, you could say that game development is more about not getting things wrong than it is about getting things right.
True.
Like if you can polish absolutely every little problem that a player might have out of an experience, you can give them a good time, even though like obviously you need innovation as well. But like it really is important just to not get any of that stuff wrong.
What makes you so confident that Path of Exile 2 has all those right things?
I guess we've done a lot of testing recently, and it was something that took us a while to get to and do all that stuff. But effectively, we've beta tested a lot. We've done a lot of these events like that. We've got a lot of feedback. It's helped a lot to get a lot more confidence. And I guess one of the things that also was a bit concerning when we first were doing all that testing is that we were finding that Path of Exile 1 players were not liking the game as much as new players were. So by having by iterating more, by making it so those numbers became similar, it makes me actually a lot more confident, because I know that someone who knows Path of Exile, who knows how all the mechanics should work, is liking the game, and I also know that a new player who takes it on face value is who also doesn't have any experience with, who doesn't appreciate the game on the level of just like knowing about all the stats and everything, can also enjoy the game as well, and that makes me feel we've got both the kind of immediate, the few seconds of playing is just enjoyable, sort of going well, and we've also got the kind of longer term, I'm caring about stats and how to build my character stuff right as well. And if we can get both of those things right, then I think we'll have a good game in our hands.
Yeah, I mean, I already told you during Summer Games Fest that I was really enjoying it, so
right.
Best of luck as we go towards December. I'm
Absolutely.
very excited.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Path 2 is coming out. What are some of the pitfalls that you want to avoid with Path of Exile 2? And at the same time, what were some of the must-haves when developing a sequel to an already hit game?
Yeah, so I mean, the tricky part is that when you make a game, a sequel to a very popular game that has a very hardcore community, every single thing you change about it is like a potential point of friction for a community that's going to be like can be incredibly. I mean, look, they've got a lot of opinions, right? And so the pitfall that I worry about is, like on day one, you get a bunch of even though like new players may play it and enjoy it, you might have a situation where like PoE1 players are kind of like, I don't like this, it doesn't fit to whatever I want. And so that is a really big problem. And we were actually very concerned about this because when we first did our
mapping
user testing closed betas, we actually found that Path of Exile 1 players rated the game worse than what Path of Exile 2 players, what new players did. And that was a huge concern, right? Because it's like, well, we can't really launch like this. This would be a big issue. And so it took us a while to kind of get the game to a point where both PoE1 and new players both liked it.
That's very interesting. I wonder why. I think you talked a bit about this. But the fact that they can get the game to that point where PoE1 and 2 players enjoy it is actually insane. That seems like really hard to do.
But yeah, we started from a point where new players liked it more than old players. And in fact, it was very interesting because Path of Exile 1 players actually rated the difficulty of the game harder than what new players did. New players rated the game as, it's actually not that difficult.
We are trash, apparently.
This game is so impossible. And it's
We're
just
so
because
bad.
they're trying to apply all the knowledge that they had from playing a game for 10 years to a game that has different mechanics and different stuff going on.
Yeah.
So as I said, I think that's the biggest pitfall and the biggest potential source of strife that we might get at launch is just a bunch of PoE1 players having issues. But as I said, I think we've managed to solve those problems. There was just a lot of things around itemization and like the way the tree was, and just a lot of things like that we had to deal with. And so in terms of stuff that I think that was just really important to get going from the start, yeah, I mean, this endgame stuff, I think that was something that we realized relatively late, that we really have to make sure that, like, you know, if we don't have a good endgame going into early access, then Path of Exile 1 players are just going to say, hey, this is just a worse game. You know, like, we need that
Probably,
stuff to
yeah.
be able
And
to,
go back to
to
PoE1.
actually make a PoE1 player feel like, oh yeah, you know what, this is a true sequel to PoE1, because for a lot of players in PoE1, the campaign is not even a thing for them anymore. They complete it in hours because they've done it so many times.
Relatable.
Like for them, it's like just a tiny blip in the progress of, of a character.
That's
right?
not
It's like
important.
They spend 99% of their time in endgame. So if we didn't have that, then I think it would have been a disaster. So thankfully, now that we've addressed that concern, we've got stuff. We believe we have enough of it in game to make those people happy. I think that pitfall will thankfully be avoided. But as I said, it was only a thing that we realized relatively recently.
What was the hardest thing
Whoa.
to get with couch co-op, because that's not something a lot of games do these days.
For sure. So, I mean, there's a few things. One of them is that, and this is probably the most obvious one to people, is that having to just build the UI again. We have to make 3 versions of the UI now. We've got the PC version, we've got the console version, and we've got the couch co-op version.
Oh my god.
But it ended up being really important because we found that it really just sucked to have to wait for the other player to do things. Like when we first did it, it was just, you know, you could open a full screen menu and the other person just had to wait basically. And so then we were like, okay, well, this isn't really good enough. Let's add at least inventory. We'll make it so that part will work. And then as soon as we had that, we're like, oh, but you know, people want to be able to allocate passives separately. People want to be able to do this and that. Pretty soon we were rebuilding every single UI screen. And we haven't even finished that yet. Like right now, if you've got 2 players, you can't both shop at the same time. But we're still getting complaints about that. So now we're like, okay, now if we make the shop
This was in June, so I mean it's a while ago.
interface as well in couch co-op, and we're pretty much ending up, as I said, rebuilding everything 3 times now. So that's certainly certainly something. But I think it is worth it because people are so excited for couch co-op. Like even just around the
Yeah, it looks
office,
cool.
You know, like once our developers knew we were making couch co-op, everyone was like, "Oh man, I really want to play this with my partner." Like it was just a really exciting thing. Yeah, and people have responded really well to it.
I want to play couch
Ever
co-op.
since the
Sounds
announcement,
cool.
People have just been really buzzing about it. So yeah, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, it's just a feature you don't see a lot these days.
For sure,
So the
for
fact
sure.
that it's being included, it kind of like just reminds you that you're putting a lot of care into Path 2. Path 2 is going to have PvP, right?
It will, but
it'll
it's
be
not.
purposely
It's
balanced.
not really the focus, to be honest.
Thank
Every
God.
time we ever tried to make PvP like a big focus thing, people have kind of found like they enjoy PvE better. So
Yeah.
like, we'll have PvP still in, but it's more of a kind of fun thing you might want to do with your friends rather than some big serious competitive thing. Like, you know, we're not an esport. You know, that is not our intention. So yeah, that's kind of
Do you have any concerns about balancing going in
for PvP.
for PvE?
Oh, for PvE? Oh, absolutely, right. I mean, Path of Exile is an
What a question. I was like, is that just me? Was that a weird question? It's very odd to me. It's like they're releasing PoE2 for the first time to the public in early access. Are you worried about balancing? It's like, what? Okay.
atrocious game to balance. It's especially hard now because the amount of cross-class synergy that can happen. Because you know we're doing a lot more of this sort of combo type gameplay, and when we do that, we try to keyword things so that they would work across classes. So, for example, you've got something like a power charge, which is something that you can use to improve your abilities, and we try to have power charge mechanics on quite a lot of different classes. And what that means is that we've got to be very careful about what skills, because you know you can use skills from other classes. You've got to be very careful about how those things can happen, because like when you're balancing something, when you're looking at it, you may just be only thinking, okay, what can this do with the skills that I've got in this class?
So it's basically what we also talked about yesterday when they talked about the weapon, what do we call it? Weapon skill set points or something when you swap weapons. It's kind of the same thing where it's like that, and I think you used CI as an example. I mean, makes sense.
But given that you can use things from any class, you know, we also have to be worried about all this other stuff, and it can kind of the explosion of different possibilities kind of gets out of control. And I mean, I know already that there's just like ultra broken stuff that you could do. Like if you use that bell with a Sork using Spark, it is broken as hell. Like you can just
Oh my god. Have they fixed that? This was in June. Maybe they've actually fixed that. Yeah, that sounds disgusting. Can you only have one bell? I think maybe. that's actually pretty hilarious. I wonder if you can buff, because the bell when it gets hit, it gets the buff, so you can have like Flamewell Bell spark. Oh my god, yeah.
Just chew through any
Sounds
bullets
fun.
right now. So we need to do something about that.
No,
but,
we don't.
That kind of thing
It's
is
fine.
certainly tough to deal with. But we kind of like that stuff because that's what makes it interesting in the long term, right?
What's your philosophy in that? Like, you get, I've heard it referred to as like nails on a board. You see one pop up a little too high. Do you like just let it linger for a while before you tap it down to where it needs to be?
So generally speaking, we don't do nerfs within a league. Like whatever the balance is when a season starts, we want to keep that so that people don't feel like they invest time into their character and then for the developers to come along and destroy what they were doing.
I like this because I played. I think it was it last Epoch? No, I think it was a different one. Vulcan or something. I played an ARPG. It was probably last year, and I got to the end game, and they nerfed my build during this, and I stopped playing because now my build was just trash, and I don't want to change it, and I probably can't change it either. So I was like, screw that shit. Same thing happened in what's it called? The looter shooter, not Remnants. The other one starts with whatever. I can't remember the name of it. Same thing happened there. I played a really cool. It was actually a poison build. It was really awesome and strong. And same thing, they nerfed it, and I was like, okay, well, I tried a different build. I was like, nah. Same thing happened in Diablo 4 now in the current season. I played the evade build, which was really fun and very powerful. Like there's still like a very strong build you can do, but I was like, after that, I'm like, yeah, I changed my character. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I stopped playing. So I mean, I completely understand this approach because I've stopped playing several games because they've nerfed shit right in the middle of it.
So I always try to avoid that, but each season it is okay to be able to do some balance stuff. I don't want to just like whenever we're doing.
It's called Outriders. I think the looter shooter. Outriders. Yeah, I think that was the one where they nerfed my poison build. And I was like, screw that. I'm out.
I try to find something that isn't what the players expect as for how we're going to change something. Like I don't want to just like nerf the damage value, right? I mean, sure, you can do that, but it's cooler, I think, to kind of come up with something else to kind of subvert something that's going on and sort of make it more interesting. I guess the funny part about that is, and I think the reason why a lot of developers just kind of turn into nerf fests with their patches is because it's way easier to see the thing that's broken and nerf it than it is to see the thing that's underpowered and buff it.
True.
Because it's just like, you don't really, like
Didn't Diablo 4 devs say that they didn't want to do this? I think that's what they said. Where it's like, oh, it's so hard to buff, or it's not better to buff underused stuff than to nerf the overpowered stuff. It was very strange. Completely different it is.
Inherently, the things that are not as powerful get less attention because players aren't playing with them, so they're not on your mind. And so, yeah, the ability to sort of notice that stuff and buff it is actually quite hard to sort of get into the mindset of doing. But it is what you should be doing.
Yeah, and there's this sort of dance with players where you want them to feel that power fantasy
For sure.
of leveling.
For sure.
But then you also got to keep it fresh, like with each season of the game.
Power.
How do you approach that? Like, are you like, okay, this time we're gonna really go all in on druids, and then next season it'll be witch?
It does kind of end up going like that. With each Path of Exile season, we definitely pick a few things to address, but you've always got to make sure that there's a stuff around the whole game. So ideally, with the way we do game design, whenever we add something new to the system, because everything has so much cross-pollination, it means that it generally will affect the builds of kind of all different classes, when we add a league and so on. So that does keep the gameplay fresh. I think more so than most games, we have this kind of thing where almost any system can interact with another system, and that is what leads to the complexity that Path of Exile is kind of a bit notorious for. But it does mean that it does keep the game fresh every time people keep coming back. So ideally, we can kind of tame the complexity while still keeping that element. But it is pretty challenging.
What's something that you're really proud of with Necropolis, and something that you feel like you could have been better?
Necropolis, wow.
Been somewhat mixed for
so it isn't really my thing. I'm not working on Path of Exile 1, so I'm kind of aware of it just from being in the studio. But probably the main issue that we had with Necropolis, I think, was that We had a lot of like
Broken
brokenness
stuff.
in the economy.
Yeah,
specifically.
so
Like,
broken.
there were things that certain players were able to do to get
Oh,
like,
so
ridiculous amounts
stupid.
of wealth really easily, and that
Yeah.
kind of broke the economy a little bit in that league more so than others.
I think that's why I stopped playing. I think why most people stopped playing, because players found these broken strategies, and especially like the later ones where you had to invest like a ton of money to even do them. And I was like, well, you can't even. I mean, I can't even reach that point, so why would I be playing, right? Actually.
The funny thing about it was that at the start, people thought that we'd nerfed everything into the ground to the point there would be no, oh, you've nerfed all these things, there's no way to get like good items anymore. And then pretty soon we started getting all these different economic exploits popping up that led to some pretty crazy stuff. I think that led to some sort of issues. I mean, that's kind of the main one from my perspective, because it's kind of what we've been dealing with as a studio. There were just a lot of these kinds of exploits early on in the league, more so than usual.
Exploit
And,
early.
so that's been kind of a bit annoying. And so yeah,
They did ban people though. I mean,
it is really hard, and I think one of the things we sort of learned about that is that we really need to be doing more extreme testing. So like with each mechanic, really thinking like, okay, what is the most broken possible thing you could do with this, and really concentrating on that, because otherwise it can lead to these kinds of problems. And I think our QA just kind of weren't really thinking about it in that way as much. Like they tended to look at things and be like, okay, does this feel balanced in the context of like the other stuff you're using it with, without really thinking as much about like what is the worst possible case for this and really zeroing in on that. Yeah, we had a lot of issues around that, and I think that's part of what sort of happened with Necropolis.
With Path 2, what's like your favorite quality of life thing that you're introducing? Like you've announced couch co-op. Cross progression is huge in my mind. But what's something that you're really happy with?
To me, the best QOL stuff is just the way the new skill gem system works. It's just so much
True.
easier. And also now, I mean, this is just what we're doing at the moment, but like now that we've got the support gem system working how it is, it's just so much easier to deal with, and like, you know, it just makes it way more obvious. We've got, I don't know if the build that you've got has all of the stuff here, but like seeing the changes that happen to your character as you add each thing, like that stuff is really nice. It just makes building so much easier.
wait, what? Seeing the change to your character? I'm not sure what he actually means by this. Like visually, or?
Yeah. So I mean, you know, there's like a million things I could say, but like that's kind of what I'm thinking about at the moment, is just all that stuff with skills and supports and how much easier that makes the game.
Story-wise, for Path 2, have you put more focus into it, knowing that like you're going to have more people playing together?
For sure. I don't know if you noticed the changes that even made in the build. You probably didn't play quite far enough to really understand that, but we're doing a lot more with that stuff. I think we're doing a lot better job than PoE1 did, and I do hope that by the time people get through Path of Exile 2, they will at least know what the story was.
I hope. Yeah, I really hope it's good.
Yeah, we can definitely do better there. But there's also even other things like we've changed the dialogue system quite a bit from how it was in PoE1. There's still more changes coming even for that. It is something that I want people to be able to consider good in the game, which I think that PoE1 had pretty good sort of environmental stuff going on, but I wouldn't say that like the overall narrative was like a lot of people skipped it. They weren't really interested, and I think that we can definitely do better there.
Yeah, I hope so, because I remember watching. Was it like day 9, or maybe it was Preach or someone, and they really, really wanted to listen to the dialogue in Path of Exile 1, but it's so slow. So I mean, eventually you skipped it. It was like, oh, I don't care. Like, this is just way too slow. Takes too long.
The greatest lesson you learned from playing other people's games?
I guess it's very different depending on the type of game, but I guess one of the things that I mostly focus on is the fact that like whenever new games come out, you really need to be cognizant of the new minimum bar that they're setting. Like even if you're not necessarily going to, you don't want to copy what they're doing necessarily, but I think you've got to look at it as like, what is the thing that, what new standard has this game set? You know, we now have to meet this, you know? So like for something like so we've got a dodge roll obviously and an animation cancelling. That is not a thing that you could get away without, I think, launching an action RPG today. I think it just wouldn't work. It is set, there is a minimum standard there for that kind of level of controllability. You need to meet it. And the same is true of many other systems, like trade and the way item system work and a bunch of other things like that. You have to make sure you're learning that from other games. So it's just about making sure you're meeting that new minimum, because the minimum is raising all the time, right? With every game that comes out, there's something new that players will accept.
Imagine Diablo 1 with a dodge
The
roll.
right to do so, right?
There's a mod for you.
What's your favorite game of all time and why?
Oh, geez. I mean, that's always a hard one. I mean, if I really had to, if you're putting me on the spot, the first thing that comes to mind is Half-Life.
Hey, okay, I like this guy. I approve of this. Very nice.
You know, I mean, it's the stuff you play when you're a kid, right? It's
Yeah.
like, this is the greatest game ever. You know, I mean, like it was when I was a kid, it was, you know, my favorite games were Final Fantasy VII and Half-Life and
Base,
StarCraft, right?
incredibly
These are
base. I like.
these are like the three sort of pillars of my youth of gaming, right? And so it's very hard to look past that when, you know, nothing else compares to that first experience you have with those kinds of things. Yeah, Half-Life might be one of the more probably slightly up there above the other ones. You might expect me to say Diablo, which obviously is a big deal, but you know, like honestly,
No, why would you say that?
When I was a kid, it was those other ones.
Yeah, when I was a kid, and I know we're wrapping up here, but I got the Brood War chest,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that was like my
Oh.
first
Nice,
experience
Cool.
with PC
nice.
gaming. It was great.
Nice.
Okay,
It's pretty funny because Diablo 1 on PlayStation 1 is the only version of the game that has Swedish translation in it, and it's absolutely glorious. I think I played on stream like years ago. It's like Swedish text and voice acting, and it's absolutely horrendous, but in a good way.
just real quick on this last interview. This was one of the earliest interviews I did, and my microphone was not working during it, so I did audio pickups, which may sound a little bit disjointed, but I'm basically repeating what I asked at the time. Here you
Okay,
go.
cool.
What's the most important thing for an ARPG to get right?
I don't know that I can answer just one thing, because really I'd say there's 5 major things. So the number one to me is action combat, right? Like you can't have like an MMO style combat, it needs to be action focused. Another one is random item generation. The random items are super important, you need to get that right. Very few games actually do. The next one is random levels, ultra important, because if you want a game to last for a long period of time, you have to have
Yeah, it has to be
level
fresh.
randomization. Once again, a lot of things, something that a lot of modern games aren't really doing these days.
Yeah.
Another one is secure online economy. So effectively, you have to have a secure item system. If you don't have the ability to trade items between players, then people just won't value them the same way as if they find them themselves. And then the last one, what is my 5th pillar? What have I forgotten here? Oh yeah, that's right. Character customization. You have to have the ability to have a large amount of character customization, so that if you're playing the game over and over again, you're going to have a lot of different ways to play. It's going to be a different experience every time.
Now, interesting here is he's talking about character customization in in the way of actually, you know, the passive tree and stuff like that. He's not talking about like the visual stuff, because even in PoE2 they're all locked, like gender locked, and they look a certain way. So there's no like, you know, cosmetic wise, more like power wise, I guess.
So to me, those are the 5. That's how you make an action RPG right there. We've said this at GDC talks before, and yet still action RPGs come out and they don't have one of those. And I'm kind of like, we're giving you the secret sauce, guys. Like, that's how you do it.
Just do this and you win.
So yeah, to me, that's an action RPG right there.
Is it inspiring to see so many successful ARPGs on the market right now?
I think it is good because a rising tide lifts all boats, and especially with the kind of seasonal model that action RPGs do best with, there's room for people to play more than one action RPG at a time. But the big thing to me that I found is that when new games come out like that, they kind of set a new minimum standard, and we have to make sure we're meeting that standard. Like if they have features that players now expect, that means that we have to make sure we're adapting to what that new minimum is. So that makes it challenging, right? Like there are things we could have gotten away with before Last Epoch comes out, and then Last Epoch comes out, they have a few things going on that have once again raised a minimum standard. We now have to meet that standard as well. We have to care about that. So that kind of thing, it matters a lot, and as I said, we have to pay attention.
There was something. What was it? There's something in PoE2 that they've taken from Last Epoch. Maybe it's the Infinite Atlas, I guess, maybe. I mean, they basically took the PoE1 Atlas and combined it with Delve, but I mean, I don't know.
Can you give me an example of something someone else is doing that you really like?
Right. So a really good example of this is the trade stuff they have in Last Epoch, where
Yeah,
it
it's
doesn't just say
really
that you
good.
want to copy what they're doing with trade, but the key thing is that there was clearly a community demand to make trade easier than what it is in PoE1.
Yeah.
And when there isn't another game that's meeting that demand, we can honestly get away with a worse experience. But when there is, it's like, well, we have to do something about this, right? We have to make sure that we have a trade system that's going to, allow that to to meet the new minimum standard. Otherwise, people are just going to be complaining about it, and they're right to, right? Because once other games in the genre have lifted the standard, that's on us to improve.
This was in March. It's interesting because the only time he talked about trading recently was the website. So, I mean, we're still going to use the trade website, the official one. So I assume they don't have anything or don't plan anything in the actual game, like last Epoch?
Watching streams, do you ever see things you want to address or fix?
Absolutely. I mean,
never.
The only way that we're going to improve is doing that stuff. And it's honestly just watching the people who are playing here, the number of issues they ran into it and be like, god damn it, like we really should have done something about that. It's
happens all the time. I know.
It's painful, but you have to do it. Like the user testing, seeing what people actually do, is super important.
Does Path of Exile 2 feel vastly different from Path of Exile?
Well, I would definitely say so. To me, just the way combat feels is just vastly different than before. And like that's kind of what I I just really want that nobody, like, if you go to forums about like when we release a new Path of Exile 1 expansion, one of the top comments outside of our community is always, I tried that game, but I just thought it felt really bad or really old or something like that.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that no one ever again says that our combat isn't best in class. Like I want to make sure that we don't have that criticism anymore. I just don't want to see it again. And so, that's why I'm really motivated to make sure that we're fixing that. But we can still even do more than what we've even done now.
Can you?
That sounds pretty hard to admit. Jeez, what a goal. I mean, it's a good goal, but that sounds like a challenge.
Tell us more about why you delayed the beta.
Yeah, so ultimately it just comes down to the fact that we didn't appreciate the degree to which really nailing like the amount of polish you need to do on something to really make it perfect. We're still going to get all the content that we said we were going to like the content we said we were going to have, like that will be ready. There'll be a whole game there. It's just that like the level of polish. So when we actually went and we're like, okay, we're preparing for this demo here, and we're going to get Act 1 and 2 flawless. We're going to get it perfect. The amount of work that took to get it to the point where even we still have bugs now, but I mean, to get to the point where we were like, yeah, we've got something here, just took longer than we expected. Like the level of polish
Classic.
that we, I guess, demand of ourselves at this point is just higher than it is in PoE1. Like a PoE1 boss does not get, I guess, does not need this level of attention. It's just kind of shocking, honestly, how much more work it is to get a boss from feeling like, okay, it's got all its skills, to getting to the point where it's like, okay, now it's actually really solid and fun to play. And like,
yeah, can't imagine.
It's like so many subtle details of how AI works and so on and all this sort of stuff. And then the other side of that is player skills, where once again, getting them to actually feel really, really good is just a longer experience than we thought. And then in addition to that, we have what I was talking about in before, which is that when we go and change player skills, sometimes the result of that is like we have to go through every monster and boss again and change the AI and abilities and all that sort of stuff now and take into account for that. So when we added active block, it's like, well, suddenly you need to have a way to know that a skill is going to be not active blockable. So that means we have to think, okay, we have to make, not only do we have to rethink like every skill of like, okay, does this fight have enough abilities that, that a person who's active blocking is able to worry about? Like, is the mix of that correct for this character class? Do we have the indicators we need? Do we have the wind-ups? All that stuff suddenly comes in. So it's like you change a core feature like that on the player class and all the content needs to change again. And that once again, that sort of rippled out a huge amount. So I'm hoping there's not going to be too much more of that. I'm hoping we've got to the point now where it's like, we don't suddenly need to feel like we need to change the entire game again just for another character ability. But on the other hand, we just showed you a mount. And I don't know if we explored the results of that one either.
Oh yeah, the mount and ranger.
I'm sure it'll break some.
Yes, probably.
What?
Yeah, that's. I mean, I've been part of a few situations like that where something new shows up and it just ruins something. You have to change a lot of things. I was thinking he talked about how complex it is to actually add skills and boss and stuff in PoE2. So I'm a bit worried, like, how often are they going to be able to make leagues in PoE2 if they want to add new... if they want to add new skill gems? That seems like a lot of work for a league. And like, what, like adding, I don't know, like the Black Star and like all those mini bosses, and then you have a big pinnacle boss. Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see, but I hope they pull it off.
What do people buy most in the store?
So armor sets are big, you know, like something just to look cool that way. But recently we've been trying a lot more. I mean, stash tabs is a thing, which is one of those things that's kind of on the borderline, but is you know a reasonable amount. But then the other one, recently we've been doing a lot more things that involve like they trigger off gameplay, but they don't actually change the gameplay in any way.
So lots of execution things, right?
Just a random thing like, okay, when you do a critical strike, you get like this extra effect. When you kill a rare, you get like a big hand that comes down from the heavens and slams down and this kind of stuff. Like it's stuff that kind of like interacts with gameplay. And I think that for a long time, our microtransactions were entirely visual and they didn't really have those interesting kind of interaction with the gameplay, which was a mistake. And the big change we made was we started getting our game designers to make the microtransactions rather than having a separate team to make microtransactions. Like, no, the microtransactions actually need game designers to work on them.
That's interesting.
And that made them significantly better. So
that's actually really cool, right? So if like the designer who makes like this skill gem is like, well, this is the skill gem, it works like this, stats and all that. It can have, and then you have like an additional like the microtransactions you could make for this. That's pretty cool.
That kind of stuff has helped a lot. And so that sort of broadened quite a bit the horizons of what is interesting. So anything that's kind of cool that just happens during gameplay, I think the players really like that kind of stuff.
What's your philosophy on microtransactions? Have you seen them handled poorly?
I mean, the main thing really, as you said, is the pay-to-win stuff. And
it's absolutely
obvious, but the ultimate downside of anything that you sell is that you are incentivized as a developer to not make that thing good for free, if you know what I mean. And so you could argue that by selling cosmetics, that we're not incentivized to make our non-cosmetic items look as cool. But I mean, I think that's we do try anyway, of course, but at the same time, like that's a thing that you have to worry about. And I think a lot of games, like they may go into things where the philosophy is, oh, we can sell this thing and it's not going to be a problem. But then there's this just sort of subtle effect that it has on all your game design where it just infects things and kind of just like it influences how the game is placed. The moment that monetization touches it, it's kind of like it gets a bit corrupted by it. So that's really it. I don't know if I have any like exact specifics on a specific game to really call out and shame here, but that's kind of the main thing. So like even when you look at because I guess I'm like this, I'll just talk about PoE but the fact that we sell stash tabs. So the original reason why we were like that's fine is because if we didn't sell stash tabs, what people would do is create more free accounts because you can just create as many accounts as you want in a free-to-play game. You could just effectively create more accounts and have more stash anyway in a more inconvenient manner. So then we're like, okay, well, like people are going to do this anyway, so therefore the selling of that isn't going to be an issue. And it isn't for the most part an issue, I think. But at the same time,
the premium
you'll see a game designer and they'll say something like, oh, like it's fine if this thing doesn't stack too bad. It'll just, you know, they'll just put it in their stash and that'll sell more stash tabs. And I'm like, no, we need to really, like, even just that is immediately making a thing. Like someone is saying this because of the business model. They should never be doing that. Like we want to keep the game designers away from that thinking as much as possible. And so anytime I see that, I'm kind of like, no, we really have to not fall down into that hole. But even just for something as simple as what we do have, that's already like, you know, I've heard people say something like that, and I'm like, no, we can't do this. We have to make sure that we're not. So yeah, as I said, it's a very easy hole to fall into, and we try as much as possible never to fall into that. And the best way we can do that is by not introducing any pay-to-win elements as much as we can.
Why is?
Because he briefly mentioned like stacking items and stuff. Because I know like one big thing that the PoE1 community has complained about a lot is, especially when they add new currency items and stuff, that there's no place for them. Like, why is this thing that's a currency item not? Why doesn't it not have its own slot in the currency tab, right? Things like that, and that is a bit weird. But they have added a few over time. I think the last one they added was divination cards or packs. I mean, so yeah.
Path of Exile stood the test of time? It's more popular than ever right now.
We've been pretty much consistently increasing in player base since we did
crazy.
our league model, the sort of 3-month cycle and so on. But I think ultimately the important reason is because we do those 5 things, and very few games do. I can name on very few titles that actually do all of that right, and then actually follow up by having the seasonal releases. Other games that don't, like for example, so Last Epoch doesn't have random areas, at least not like in the way that Path of Exile does. And I think that if they don't do something about that, that could be something that is going to hurt them, because I think that kind of thing will be to their detriment in the long run. And like once again, it's just one of those things that like when we were looking at, like these pillars actually go right back to the very founding of our studio. Like when we founded our studio, we're like, these are the 5 things you need to have a long-lasting game.
That's
and
good.
If you look at Diablo 2, which also had all of these things, Diablo 2, which of course we were very highly influenced by when we started our studio, is also one of the longest lasting games. Like that game was being sold in stores. Obviously this is back when people actually went into stores and bought games. This was still being sold in stores like 10 years after it came out.
That's insane.
There's like no other game I can think of that has that kind of long-term run in retail. It's absolutely crazy. So it really shows you that those 5 pillars really do get you a long-lasting game.
How much Path of Exile versus Path of Exile 2 have you been playing?
So at this point, I have to admit, I don't play much Path of Exile 1. I actually find it very hard to go back to, because the combat is just so much worse than PoE2.
Wow. Damn, shots fired. I've been thinking about, this is something I've been thinking about a lot, because I feel like if you play a lot of PoE1 like I have, and then you move to PoE2, I have a feeling I'm going to have a hard time going back to PoE1, even though like if I want to for a new league, because there are a few things at PoE2 that are so much better.
From my experience, that like I just can't really do it anymore. But PoE2 I play every night. You have to, right?
Yeah.
Like every night.
You need to know your game.
Spend my evening playing the game. My son thankfully really enjoys watching me do it. It's just because like I need to see the kind of changes, and because every time you play a boss, every time you play the thing, you just learn a little bit more and a little bit more, and you just have to keep on iterating on it.
He's gotta be like one of the best players at launch. Probably the best player, along with QA testers.
So yeah, I pretty much have to play constantly. But I mean, I enjoy it, right? Like it is fun to do, and it's especially great seeing all of the art and everything that gets added, and like all the new things that come in. Like it's actually great. Like every time I see a new thing, like, oh yeah, that's so cool. Like those little elements. So that's really fun. But I have to admit, I don't play PoE1 anymore. And the person who does is Mark, and he is therefore much more involved in Path of Exile 1. But at this point, as I said, it's hard to go back to.
What's a non-ARPG that you've played and really liked?
Ooh.
I mean, other than Balatro? Yeah. Okay, what was the most recent thing? Oh, so the most recent one I was playing was Prince of Persia, that new Prince of Persia game that came out. And that's the subtitle of it. The Lost Crown, yeah. So that one's pretty interesting to me. I think that there's a lot of really interesting combat design in that game, and I was paying attention to it quite a lot. Even though it's a totally different genre, but I think that there's a lot to learn from these kinds of action games, and looking at some of the sequences and some of the ways things combine and so on. That game's obviously got a lot of like aerial type hitting stuff, which is not applicable to us at all, but it's very interesting to look at something like that. And also when you look at the bosses in a game like that, it's sort of there's just sort of interesting inspiration you can take. So that's probably the most recent one that I played that I was really kind of like thought was really good. But it is honestly hard to find AAA games these days that have the kind of good qualities that I'm looking for in a game. So that was a nice one.
A huge thank you to Jonathan Rogers and everybody at Grinding Gear Games for letting us play the game, letting me get a chance to sit down with Jonathan to talk a little bit about Grinding Gear Games and Path of Exile 2. If you want to play Path of Exile, you can get access on December 6th if you are a supporter. If you spent over, I believe it was $480 in the original Path of Exile, you get instant access. And if you pay $30, you can just get into early access. Otherwise, when the game fully launches, it's completely free. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, everybody. For more on Path of Exile, check out my most recent preview about the Mercenary, or the one about the Witch, or the one about the Ranger. And for more on all things gaming, keep it right here at IGN.
Huh, damn. It's probably one of the better IGN videos I've seen in a long time, to be honest. Very interesting. It's very, I enjoy, I mean, I also work in game dev, and it's very interesting to listen to Jonathan talk, because I feel like he's one of the few in the industry that actually cares about his game. Like, it's not like, can we make the most money? It's more like, oh, what's the best for the game, the feel of the game, and plays like and dislike. It just makes sense to listen to him most of the time, I feel like. They already topped the charts and it's not even out. Yeah, it's crazy, man. They're gonna allow, by the way, they said that they're gonna allow, apparently there's not gonna be a preload on Steam, but tomorrow, so Thursday the 5th, they will allow you to download these separate clients, or like, because they have their own client like in PoE1, so you can download a separate client on their website, I believe, and you can actually preload the game that way. So you just have to make sure that if you use that, it doesn't have two-factor authentication, which is very strange, and you have to like link your Path of Exile account to your Steam and stuff. So but apparently that's the only way to preload, I guess, is what it seems like, at least from what I could tell. Alright, that's cool. That's a nice interview. It's very different from all the other ones from the community, so that's nice to see. But yeah, we have like, I think there are at least 2 pretty long community interviews to watch. I'm not doing that today because I want to look at some other stuff before it gets too late. So that's a good one. Really nice. Do we look at this first? Maybe, I don't know. I wonder if I should go through this from yesterday, or if we should. I'll look at the Ascendancies as well. I guess we could look at this and the Ascendancy. Is there anything here that doesn't work? Any skill that hits. Any that hits. Any that hits. Yep. So this is a projectile, right? I sure hope so. Any skill, projectile skill, any skill, projectile. I mean, this is not final. I'm gonna move things around, but projectile, yeah, okay. I mean, this one should work, right? Because it has AoE persistent, any skill with an area of effect, which this one does, I'm pretty sure. AoE, yeah. Same here. Plague. Persistent buff. This is a persistent buff. Random arrows, AoE projectile bow, any skill that hits enemies. So yeah, I mean, it hits enemies, so that has to work. Right? Support skills that can empower skills other than themselves. So that does not work. There, we did add one. What was that? I thought we added one. Support skills that can empower skills other than themselves. Oh, I see. Oh, like the cooldown stuff, I assume? Wait, what was it called? It was like a cooldown skill. I mean, it was a support gem or something. Empowered cull damage. That's it. There was a cool. Is this one? Yeah, hourglass. I don't know. I don't think that counts, does it? Yeah, because I feel like empowered damage does not work here. Empower skills other than themselves. Yeah, I don't think that works. So we gotta remove that. Supports attacks cause them to gain chaos damage, but deal. Oh, yeah, it's missing a word. I was like, that doesn't make sense. I guess it says but deal less damage of other types. Okay. That makes more sense. Bursting Plague. Support skills that can poison enemies, causing poison to, yeah, it's a plague. Fire projectile from the user. This one I'm not sure. We talked about this yesterday. I don't know. Because it says it supports skills that fire projectiles from the user. Maybe it's a totem thing or something. I don't know. Does not affect projectiles fired from other locations as secondary effects. So the question is, do you fire the rain of arrows, or do you fire the initial arrow that triggers rain of arrows? I have a feeling Vol is not going to work with rain of arrows, probably. This should work, right? Blasphemy buff. Do I want to... I do want to... hold on. Yeah, I do want to actually combine these, right? Am I wrong? I assume this, yeah, socketed curse skills, right? It's not a curse skill. It says curse, right? Yeah. That sucks. Well, in that case, I would definitely do this, because this is what we do with Death's Oath. But I don't know if it's worth it. That's the problem. I have a feeling we're gonna have to manually cast Despair, which would be Despair. I have a feeling even with AoE effect here, it's not gonna be large enough. Like, you're gonna be so far away from enemies. That's probably not gonna work. So I imagine we don't use Blasphemy and use just Despair straight up. I wish I could move these, but I can't. Area of effect. Area of effect. Why can't I move it? Okay, interesting. Hold on. Alright. So I don't think we want to use this, sadly. I don't think it's gonna have enough range. Wait, where did it go? What? He's disappeared when I did that. Interesting. Now we could use area of effects on toxic growth, which I kind of like to cover more area. So I'd probably put it on that instead, I think. Maybe. Not impossible. Yeah, let me do this. Barrage with charge. Support skills that consume power, frenzy, endurance, which it consumes frenzy. Now I think you can put this on Rain of Arrows, right? Because this also uses frenzy. Chance not to remove each charge while still gaining the maximum benefits. Remove each charge. This repeats 2 by default. Okay, so it probably doesn't work here then. Right, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Vine Arrow, I'm not sure what I want to do with, to be honest. And I still have a slot empty here. Like, you don't have to fill all of them up, which is nice. Like, you can skip Vine Arrow, but I feel like that's a good one. Vine Arrow growth, and you just burst the heck out of it. Like, would I use... See, the thing here is, if it's end game, I probably would change the arrow skill Would I? If Rain of Arrows works well for mapping, I would probably change the arrow skill to more single targeting, I imagine. Let's see. Okay, they did release, I want to look at this. Because they released all the Ascendancies officially. Okay, so Pathfinder. I mean, we already know these, right? What about the travel nodes? They don't tell us what the travel nodes do? Okay, that's interesting. I mean, we know this already, which is the poison prolif into double poison. Okay, let's start here then. Number one is 50% more flask charges gained. That's quite a bit. Yeah, okay. And then number two is life flask effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. Life flask effects do not queue. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool, actually. I don't think I'll use it, but that's pretty cool. I don't know if I'd use any of these two, but 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4. So 5 here are the concoctions. Now I wonder if this is like the poison one is the interesting one, obviously, but we don't have poison concoction, right? Or explosive concoction. Like they just don't exist. So, at least that we know of. So 5A is the poisonous concoction. Consume charges from your mana flask, very important, to throw a bottle that explodes, dealing unarmed chaos attack damage in an area. Poison inflicted by this skill has more effect. The other ones are exposure and bleed. Is kind of similar. Unarmed physical, yeah. So all these are unarmed. I wonder how strong that's gonna be, really. It doesn't seem great. Doesn't seem great. It's really hard to tell. Here's the thing. Interesting. It would be interesting if they added these to this builder, but they haven't, right? Yeah, no. So I imagine you can pick this flask here, Poisonous Concoction, and then you get it here, because I believe he said that anything you get from Ascendancies is added to your list. So if that flask, I assume that skill ends up here, you can then support it with a lot of skills. So I think then it might be actually quite interesting to use. It doesn't... I don't think it has... It doesn't have the downside of PoE1. So you can still use your bow, which is very interesting. Because this has more effects. How much is that? I feel like this is something I assume you can respec your Ascendancy points, but not change your Ascendancy. So I want to try Poisonous Concoction. First Ascendancy is in Act 2. Honestly, I think the first Ascendancy point here would be the Contamination. It really depends though when we get certain gems, like support gems, when we can actually get them. So it depends, but I want to try Poison Conch and support it with some stuff and then see how good it feels. Because in that case, I would almost consider basically copying this build and then making like you do one version that's like leveling with bow or whatever, or like a bow version, and then you do another version that's literally only relying on this flask skill. Yeah, I do want to try that. That's cool. Okay, so we have number 6 is new. Grants 5 passive skill points. Huh. You just get 5 extra skill points? That sounds pretty nuts. I mean, I might use this. It really depends on where I'm going in the passive tree. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It's like every time you send, you're like, do I have use of 5 skill points? Yes or no? So here's the Assault, we know that one. And Relentless Pursuit. You cannot be slowed, basically. Like, this is very tempting. 4% less move speed penalty when using skills while moving. What about the mount? The mount is probably skill gem, right? It's also very risky to use the mount, that's the thing. Apparently that's what they said. I think you get stunned if you get hit or something. I wonder what these travel nodes are. I'm very curious. Guess we'll find out when we play the game, huh? Yeah, so this really depends. The first ascendancy point is like, do we have the supports we need? Then I would go like this. If I want to try the flask version, I would probably definitely try this out. I mean, I'm gonna try it anyway. The question is, when do you try this? If it's anything like in PoE1, it's actually gonna be very strong, but because it says it deals unarmed chaos attack damage in an area, but it also poisons them, I assume. So it deals chaos damage when it lands, and it also poisons them, which is very important. So I wonder, it's gonna be interesting to see how we can support this skill with support gems. Yeah, but I think in that case, it's essentially poison bow leveling, and then you have poison bow endgame, and literally the same, but you have poison flask leveling and poison flask endgame. Like 2 different things. Or 4, I guess, total. I mean, it's impossible for me to say how I would do this. If I don't like the way bow plays, I might just try this and just basically try it out. Like, just try it out. If I have the support gems, grab the concoction, put the support gems in, I just try it to see what it feels like, because you definitely need like multiple projectiles, like projectiles, poison, probably AoE. Does AoE work? I mean, we can't tell, right? Maybe AoE does not work with this thing. Just overlap with projectiles. You got the poison, the affliction. Do we want longer duration? I think I want shorter, don't we? I probably want shorter duration here. It depends on how it works. Because you want to deal a ton of damage in a short amount of time? I guess, yeah, something like that. Yeah. Let's look at the other ones, because I want to look at, try to look at how can we make Death's Oath work. I want to do that today, so we should get going before it gets too late. So, we don't have the unique chests. I mean, it might be in the game, but it's not going to be the same, so it is what it is. But the goal is to have something similar to this. And I mean, obviously you have, you have Blasphemy, right? So Blasphemy, you want this with, do you want Despair? Despair is an option. We need to look at what curses there are in this game. Okay, hold on. I need to think. Okay. If we're talking like the original build, we need Whispers of Doom. Which I think I actually found. I found this website yesterday. Yeah, here. What's currently known about the skill tree? There should be a Whispers of Doom somewhere. This is, yeah. We definitely need this, so we can apply an additional curse. So if we use that. Depends on how many supports we want. So what do we want? There is a really cool new gem called something. What was it? It was a totem. Yeah, this one. This one's really cool. This new one. It's basically a 1 second cast. But it creates a totem that nukes enemies that is afflicted by chaos damage over time debuffs. Extremely specific. It says afflicted. That can't be right? Afflicted, I guess. Interesting. You could. So with poison, you can freeze with poison, or there's a variant where you can freeze with poison. Maybe we can do a similar thing here. Can we do both? Okay, we know we have Despair, but I also want what is it called? Temporal Chains. No damage over time. We got 10. This is a very good spell. Slows everything. But I mean, this is problematic. I mean, you can go extremely defensive here and do like chaos freeze thing, like the poison thing, or something else. What if you do? It's not. No, I'm thinking of the other one. No. I think we need this, but I think you can probably substitute chains with the other thing. So you do like freeze this thing. And then we do what was it called? I don't know. I don't remember anything. No. I mean, this heightened. Enfeeble? No. Focus card now. I mean, chains is not. That's level 54. That's quite high. I wonder how early you can run this. Hex Bloom. That's pretty cool. Pending Doom, classic. This one is pretty damn good. So you have Blasphemy, you have Despair to lower resistances of Chaos Res. You freeze them when they take damage over time. You have more effect of your curses, all of them. You inflict Decay, which is also chaos damage. Supports curse skills. Curse. This is a spell, but it supports. Right, that's how that works. Curse. Yeah, okay, that should work. I mean, we can buff. Does that make sense? I don't think buffing Blasphemy makes sense here. There are a few options here. Depends on how defensive you want to be. Could do Temporal Chains here. Could do... Is Temporal Chains... There's also Hinder. Let's look at these here. Hinder. Chaos damage over time inflicted by support skills also hinders enemies. Is Hinder better than Chains? This is an additional cost on spirits. Making other effects on them expire most slowly. I don't think we want that. So what you use? Okay, what you tend to do is you use that thing that I have in the other build. Not vicious projectiles. The other one. God damn it! What is it called? Oh my god! I don't remember the name. What is it called? Oh yeah, Swift Affliction. Jesus Christ! Yeah, Swift Affliction. This one. Supports any skill that deals damage. That's the thing. Do we have any other curse that actually deals damage? No, I think, wait, Decay and Hex is the one that deals damage here. We lower resistances. We build up freeze. We deal more, we have a higher effect of our curses. We deal damage faster. And we deal 10% of intelligence as chaos damage per second for 8 seconds. Yeah, that's the only one that deals damage then. Unless there's another one I'm missing. So yeah, that supports it. So this, oh, it supports curses, right? Okay, of course. Maybe we don't need Whispers of Doom, because hold on. Yeah, the only thing, we only have one curse right now. This is that one. All of these things support this thing. So I have one curse. But the curse is an aura instead. Which is, I mean, which is how we tend, that's how we do with Death's Oath and Pathful XL1. So, yeah, actually, one interesting thing I thought was interesting with this video, this guy calls it Path 2. I haven't heard anyone call PoE2 Path 2. I was like, what does it mean? And I realized he means PoE2 because it's Path 2. Very strange. So this ability is really cool. Raises a totem that bombards enemies inflicted by chaos damage over time. Now, if it works as I think it works, we are gonna have a curse surrounding us. So we're gonna basically be applying damage over time to everyone around us, like Death's Oath works, the original. So I assume it says projectile. I mean, we have to place the totem ourselves, right? But there are cast when support gems, but I don't know if any of them are good. Cast while no, because it's not a channeling ability. Cast on shock, ignite, melee stun, crit, no, freeze could maybe work. Unleash. Alright, what do we have? Unleash, focus, spell echo. I think we have to cast this ourselves. It depends on how we deal single target damage. Actually, speaking of single target, do we have a Hex Blast? Oh my god, we have a Hex Blast. That is sick. Okay. How does, wait, how does this interact? No, that should work, because Hexblast Minor, they use skither bots to carry the curse. So that should work, I feel like. The problem I have with this is that I'm not sure how large the AoE is. Like they showed the despair spell in the reveal video, and it's quite small, so I feel like you need to increase the AoE somehow. So we might just have to remove one of these and add AoE. I mean, we could probably remove Chaotic Freeze, but I also feel like that's a good defensive thing. Like really good. So, from Divasco, supported skills caused by supported skills will suffer freeze buildup from chaos damage hits from any source. Is chaos damage over time a hit? Because I don't think it is. But I mean, supports a skill for chaos damage over time, so I don't know. I feel like this is a combo thing, right? Where it's like, oh, this enemy's taking damage over time, but if you also hit the enemy, right? I think that's what they mean. So if you hit it with like Hex Blast or Dark Effigy, that is when it's going to build up the freeze, not by damage over time. Increased area effect. I mean, we need area effect somehow. It's gonna be trash otherwise. Okay, so you have Dark Effigy, Hex Blast. Can you add cold to the totems maybe or something? Or freeze, is it? Biting Frost. Support a skill, consume. Oh, that's cool. Brit. Oh, you can get brittle this way. Oh, that's sick. Shield the ground. Biting cold. Oh, you can get. Interesting. You can't go minus resistances. 0 is the cap. Yeah. Added cold damage. It says attacks. But isn't this an attack? It's a projectile. It does not say spell. Well, I mean, the gem is a spell, but it's tagged as a projectile. So the question is, does this work? Not sure. Maybe. We'll see. No idea. Hex Blast should definitely work. If it works the same way as in PoE1, that should work just fine. I mean, what else do we want? If we do this, we have one, right? Yeah, so that's 30 spirits. That's all we are reserving right now. That's it. Question is, do we have any like buffs or something? Arcane Storm, Core Staff, Thunder. I mean, this is probably a good idea. I mean, I think armor is probably like another option for this, right? Like this stuff. Like you could possibly skip Chaotic Freeze here and go AoE instead. I mean, what else do I have? Buff. What is it? Buff. Oh, that's cool. Oh, you can build energy pretty quick, can't you? Oh, it doesn't add flat, it only explodes. Actually, that's a good question. Can we get explodes? Huh. I think we're gonna need explode. Maybe this is the way to do it then. But it's not reliable though. That's the problem. Like you can't rely on that one. Or maybe you can. I don't think so. Illusion is also good defensive. Honestly, whenever you dodge roll, that's cool. I think I might use that one actually. Basically defensive layers and yeah, I mean we'll see. Magma barrier, quite shield really. Mana remnants. Oh, is this a tiny thing? I think that's what you saw in the video, in the showcase they did with the endgame sorceress. Because there were a lot of blue stuff on the ground. I think that's gotta be like the mana remnants. Pain offering? Impales a skeleton. Oh god. Radiant spirits, scavenge plating. Ah, you can gain more armor. It's also buff. I don't think this one's useful, but I like the idea of it. Combat frenzy. I think endgame you probably want to do some sort of frenzy charge thing if you can. We are not doing poison with this build, so that's not gonna work. Okay, that one's quite good. There are a few options here, yeah. Interesting. I know I think it was Defiance banner we used in PoE1, but I don't remember. At least early game. Oh, you got Wither. We need that. Actually, we do need Wither, don't we? Contagion? Oh yeah. Source creates a protective barrier which takes elemental damage. I mean, probably don't need that then, do you? Like you do this and then because that's not going to be supported, is it? I mean, it's going to work by itself. So. Yeah, because I'm not sure if you have that many buffs and you can run them if you have the spirit, then how do you support those? That's the question. I mean, there's a ton of like curse support, right? I mean, Hex Bloom is cool. I like that one. None of these are curses, right? Yeah. There's only one curse right now. So what, okay, what ascendancy do you run with this, I wonder? Okay, Sanguimancy. Life remnants, pay with your life instead of mana. Or equal to mana, okay. So this picking up a life remnant grants you life, which can overflow. And he said overflow is up to half. I believe he said it. Or was it? Something like that? Okay, so you have to take this one. Spell damage is just life, yeah. Your curses have infinite duration. Now, this is not important for this build. But it's cool, but we should not need this at all. Gain 10% of damage as extra physical damage. Elemental damage also contributes to bleeding. Oh. Okay. Interesting. Okay, then you have Gore Spike, which is crazy amount of critical. That we have no use for that. Base crit chance for spells is 15. Wow. Okay, Grasping Wound, 25% of life loss from hits is prevented. Then that much life is lost over 4 seconds. Oh. That's pretty sick. And then gain energy shield from equipped body armor. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, not. I don't think we're gonna do this one for this. Probably not. It's cool though. Okay, we got the Shunk, the Shield Monk. So Ravenous Doubts, Mana Leech is instant. Into Consuming Questions, you can't recharge Energy Shield. Mana Leech also affect recover Energy Shield. This is, I think this was gonna be nuts. You get 10% to maximum Chaos Res, and your Chaos Res is double. So 0 doubled is double 0. Is that it? This one's new, I think. Reality Rending. 23% chance to gain 25% of damage with hits as extra chaos. What the hell is this node? 13% chance to gain 50% of damage. 7 to get 100. That is a weird one. What is that? That's crazy, dude. I don't know. Weird. Okay, this one is. I've been very curious about the Waking Dream. So the skill Into the Breach creates a breach around you, allowing you to see nearby flames of Chayula. You are considered to be in a breach while the skill active. Yeah, because I was thinking it's probably like the Val skill, and that's what it seems like. But you can get like buffs instead. Flame of Chayula. Collecting flames of Chayula grants the following bonuses. Oh, there are different ones. Okay. Red flames leech 7% of your maximum life to you. Blue flames leech 7% of your maximum mana to you. And purple flames provide a stacking buff granting 7% damage as chaos damage for 5 seconds, up to 10 times. So you can get 70% chaos damage for 5 seconds. Interesting. Okay. Embrace the Darkness. Oh, I kind of thought this would be baseline, but I guess not. Okay, we know that. Embrace the Darkness. Yeah, you have no spirit, but you have darkness, which I think means if you don't have spirit, you can't use buffs like persistent stuff because you don't have spirit to reserve them, I think. Alright. Gain 1% of damage as extra chaos damage per 20 unreserved target. So, I mean, looking at this, yeah, because you reserve from damage and stuff. Yeah, that's why. Okay, and Inner Silence is new, right? 50% reduced darkness reservation duration. That's pretty good, yeah. So it's not 10% anymore, or 10 seconds, I mean. Yeah, so far, no Ascendancy I feel really fits this. Yeah, no. So let's keep going. Ooh, actually, this might be a good one. Yeah, Chronomancer. Okay, we got some nodes here. This is new. Now and again, skills have 33% chance to not consume a cooldown when used. Interesting. Okay. And then we have Unbound Encore, Time Snap, manipulates time, resetting the cooldowns of your other skills. And on the other side we have Time Freeze, which is the thing that freezes all enemies nearby. Duration is lower the more times the enemy is. Okay, so there's a diminishing return on this, so you can't just spam Time Freeze. Eventually it's not gonna be worth it. All right, makes sense. What is this? Footprints in the Sand, Temporal Rift. Passively leaves after images. Oh yeah, that's that one. Yeah, it's the Alter Time spell from World of Warcraft. Very cool. Up here we have no, that one. Oh yeah, that one. 5. Quicksand Hourglass. Every 12 seconds gain 50% more cast speed for 4 seconds. Seems like a quality of life thing, really, if anything. Especially if I'm gonna use, yeah, totems and Hex Blast, then yeah, maybe, I don't know. Like 12 seconds though? Alright, 6, enemies in your presence are slowed? Oh. Wait, so we could pick this and not do temporal chains, actually. Interesting. That's pretty cool. Okay, yeah. Alright, so 7 is circular heartbeat. 30% of damage taken recoup as life. Recoup is I hope it's better in PoE2, let's just say that. I don't know about this, man. Okay. And 8, recoup effects instead occur over 4 seconds. Does that make it good though? I don't know about that. But I think for this build, Chronomancer could make a lot of sense. Like, we don't really have cooldowns, do we? Yeah, we don't really have cooldowns, so I guess we'll see. Let's look at the other ones. Probably not Deadeye. I have a feeling. Oh my god, this tree. Okay. Avidity. 30% chance that if you gain frenzy charges, you instead gain up to your maximum number of frenzy charges. That's pretty sick, actually. Furling Chase benefits from consuming frenzy charges of your skills, has a 50% chance to be double. Yeah, that's pretty disgusting, actually, yeah. Then we have Eagle Eyes. You have no accuracy penalty of distance, which is kind of sick. If accuracy is going to be a problem, I don't know about that. This is interesting. It's another split node. So point blank and far shot. Oh, you have to pick one. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, do you want to go with the long range or short range? That's pretty cool though. I wonder what you can do with that. Endless munitions is the additional projectile. Called shots. You can apply an additional mark. Oh my god. Wait, there are marks? I haven't even seen that. Mark. Shock. Freeze buildup. Oh. Yeah, we probably want the mark, don't we? I imagine we might want the mark, actually. Like, is there any way else to do explosions? I don't think so. mean, Hex Blast, Toxic. Is there a mark? Hand of Chiula. I don't think we can do that one. Corpse marking, critical hits. We could go freezing, but I don't know if I like that. But it could work, freezing mark. If we can get the if we use the freezing synergy, then that would make sense. Maybe. Alright. Yes. Wind Ward, less damage taken per Tailwind, and oh, that's that one. This is the last one, and this is Tailwind. Okay. Well, we're probably not doing Deadeye. I'm just saying. Surprise, right? Gemling Legionnaire. It has to be a witch or something, or sorceress, I guess. We'll see. One. Oh, they changed this. Yeah, they did. They changed. 10% quality of all skills. They nerfed it. It's actually nerfed by 2%. And then the +1 to all skills. This is absolutely disgusting, but whatever. This one, 30% less cost of skills. Skill gems have 30% more attribute requirements. Oh. Okay, we have the additional skill slots here. You can use 2 copies of the same support gem in different skills. That is disgusting. What? That's just insane. What? And then the infusion, maximum cold rest. Oh, they nerfed this too. Yeah, now it was every 3rd. Now it's every 4th. So rip. It was 2 OP apparently. Imagine that. Attribute requirements of gems can be satisfied by highest attributes. Yeah, we've seen that one. Yeah. Inherent bonuses from intelligence, strength, and dexterity are doubled. Any stat stackers? It's gonna be very interesting to see. Okay, we're not doing that one. I honestly think Chronomancer is probably the only one that makes sense here, but we'll see. Okay, Altered Flesh is 20% of cold damage taken is fire, 20% of lightning taken is fire, and physical taken is chaos. Oh, okay, interesting. And then we have Bedat's Gaze, reserve 25% life. Okay, so restore 25% of your life, but you get +1 to max mana per 6 max life. Huh, that's pretty cool. And then you have another one, which is the Will, which is the same thing, but you get Spirit. And Hand, which is Energy Shield. Oh, that's interesting. That's pretty cool. Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay. We have the Demon form. You gain Demon Flame every second you remain in Demon form, causing your life to be lost at an ever-increasing rate. Okay. Revert to human form if you reach 1 life. Use a skill that is the spell or reactivate. Oh shit. Wait, so you could stay in Demon for like literally forever. Just don't reach 1 life, only use spells, and don't press the skill again. That's nuts. What? Oh my god, that's gonna be very interesting to see. And the Master Darkness is maximum 10 Demon Flame, so you can double your Demon Flame. So you have 20 stacks, which means you cast a lot faster, you take a lot more damage. Oh well, we take more damage over time, life lost, I guess. And a lot more damage. So yeah, that's kind of crazy. Right. Pyromantic Pact, we know that it's basically Sienna and Vermintide 2, or the Cyclone Darktide, where you build up a resource instead of spending mana, and then you take damage when you reach maximum. Flame, while not on low Inferno Flame, all damage from you and your allies contributes to ignite chance. While on high Inferno Flame, you and your allies gain 20% damage as fire damage. Oh my god. That's pretty nice, yeah. The Hellhound, same as before, right? Takes 20% of the damage to it instead. Not sure about actual damage of this thing, but it apparently can set things on fire. This one is new, right? Grinning Immolation. Become ignited when you deal a critical hit, taking 15% of your life and energy shield as fire damage per second. 30% more crit damage bonus. Wow. Very interesting. Like the stacking things here are kind of interesting, but like being able to stay in demon form sounds kind of crazy to me, man. But this does not really help this build, does it? I mean, I don't know. I probably not. I don't see it. Why would you use this? All right, we got the monk, the other monk, not Chunk. Lead me through grace. Gain 1 spirit for every 6 energy shield. Gain 1 spirit for every 15 evasion rating on body armor. You cannot gain spirits from equipment. Oh wow. Alright. You've won a lot of spirit. Evasion rating also grants physical damage reduction, but you have 40% less evasion. I mean, less physical is kind of nice. Okay, Faith is a choice. Meditate, you channel, and you get double your energy shield. Right, yeah. I am the Blizzard. You gain 10% damage as extra cold, and you freeze enemies. Oh, you make shield ground when you freeze enemies. Thunder, you get lightning damage, and they get shocked on shocked ground. Yeah, you create shock ground, I mean. I shall rage. Both of these go here. You get this avatar. This is interesting. So gain Unbound Fury by inflicting elemental ailments with hits on enemies. Once you reach maximum Unbound Fury, consume it to become unbound for duration. Vastly augmenting. Okay, so it doesn't really say anything, I guess. It's like number wise. But you become very powerful. We already knew that though. The Soul Springs Eternal meta skills gain 35% more energy. Really? Interesting. I wonder which meta skills you want to use on a monk. That's an interesting note. Okay. Critical hits ignore non-negative enemy monster elemental. That is disgusting. Okay, cool. All right. And scatter them to the winds. Grants elemental expression. Oh, it's the wave thing, right? Creates a fire explosion, an arcing bolt of lightning, or an icy wave of projectiles. The chance for an explosion is proportional to your strength, for a bolt proportional to your dexterity, and for a wave proportional to your intelligence. And this is a melee crit hit. So you can actually pick what you want. Because I was like, I mean, it sounded like in the video it was dependent on which element you used. Like, oh, I crit with frost, then it did the frost thing. Apparently that's not how it works. It's like strength, dex, and intelligence. So you have to pick. You basically have to keep that stat up if you want that sort of effect, I guess. Huh. Okay. We already looked at Pathfinder. I like it, but I don't know. We're gonna do a poison Pathfinder. There's a bow. We're gonna start with bows, but I want to try the poison conch. I want to try this skill with supports and then see if it feels good without using the bow. Basically, that's what I want to do. I don't think so, but we'll see. All right. So still, I think I think Chronomancer is still the only ascendancy for Death's Oath right now, but we'll see. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Scouring Wings on Sorceress. Exposure, you inflict lowest affected resistance by an additional 20%. It's gonna be important to not have too high of a reduced resist effect, because you can't go minus in PoE2, so you kind of need to keep track of that, I guess, somehow. I don't know, somehow. Tempest Caller is the storms. Wait, creates a stationary fire called a lightning storm at the target location for duration based on the highest elemental damage type for the hit that triggered the storm. It hits which do not deal elemental damage will not trigger it. Yeah, and you can scale this because it grants a skill, so you can put supports in, which is really cool. You can even cast it yourself. Maybe, I think. Maybe not. No, you probably can't. You can give it support, gems. Okay, Rain Dancer. Elemental Storm has 150% more cooldown recovery. You probably want that. I think that's a must pick, probably, if you go with that. Tempest Caller. Heavy Snows. Is this a new one? I don't recognize this. Targets can be affected by 2 of your chills at the same time. Your chills can reduce action speed by up to a maximum of 35%. 25% less magnitude of chill you inflict. Damn. That's cool. Okay, and then Shaper of Winter. All damage from hits contributes to chill magnitude. So they're basically doing the same thing for shock then. Right. Yeah, it can be affected by 2 of your shocks at the same time, which is kind of nuts, actually. 50% less duration is like whatever, really. Shaper of Storms, all damage contributes to shock. Absolutely disgusting. This is Arcane Surge here. What is this? You have Arcane Surge? Really? You get 10% more cast speed and 20% more mana regen. That's disgusting. Okay, cool. Force of Will, 1% increased effective Arcane Surge on you per max mana? What? That's disgusting, dude. What? Holy crap. I would definitely go this if I went Sorceress with this Ascendancy. Yeah, remember, you can't respec your Ascendancy. Like, you can't change the Ascendancy in early access. So you can change the points in the Ascendancy, but you can't change between them. So you make sure you pick the right one. Heart of the Storm, 4% of elemental damage taken recoup as enemy shield. Alright, that's cool. Still not for this build, and I think Chronomancer is the only one, to be honest, because these are these warrior builds, right? Yeah, and then Witch Hunter. I might as well look at them anyway. 50% more armor from equipped body armor. Gotta tank those hits. 20% chance for slam skills. You use yourself to cause aftershocks, which basically does another burst of damage, which is really cool. You have every second slam skill you use yourself is ancestrally boosted, which means it has 20% more damage in effect. That's pretty sick, actually. Colossal capacity. Oh, you get the you get the wildwood inventory. I want that, man. That's, god damn it, I really want that. Hulking form, 50% increased effect of small passive skills. Wow. Okay. I mean, this, and then you have the jewels and shit. That's kind of nuts. Crushing impacts, your hits are crushing blows, which means they cause heavy stun on enemies that are primed for stun, even bosses. Surprising strength, 4% more damage against heavy stun enemies. That's literally. And lineage, you have 15% more life, max life. That's crazy. It tells you here, normal enemies are primed for stun when they have 40% heavy build up. Magic have 60, rare 70, and you get 80%. Yeah, it's just hard to stun them, basically. Heavy stun is when you basically reach that threshold. Yeah, makes sense. It's a pretty cool Ascendancy. You can be a bit tanky, have more inventory, and then like just deal absolute disgusting damage. Seems like not the most broken one, but pretty cool. Anvil's weight. Break armor equal to 10% of hit damage dealt. Armor break? You can break enemy armor to below 0? What? That is pretty sick. Okay, you got Encased in Jade, which, yeah, you take no damage, right? You can't move or do anything, but you don't take any damage. He said that this skill works in the way that when you press it and hold the button, you will be encased, and as soon as you let go of that button, you exit. Yeah, you're no longer encased, so you have to hold it down. Answered call. Trigger ancestral spirits when you summon a totem. It was that monkey that ran the wrong way. Each of your totems. Wow. Holy shit. Okay, that's pretty good. Each of your totems summons one. If the totem dies, then the spirit disappears. Yeah, that makes sense. And it can be supported by gems, because it gives you the skill, so you can actually buff your spirits. That's cool. Wooden wall. 20% of damage from hits is taken from your nearest totem's life before you. Okay, so it's more defensive options. So you really, if you like totems, there you go. I mean, they removed melee totems and now they're back, so it's pretty sick. All right. Gains 40% base chance to block from equipped shield instead of the shield's value. All right. So we got some block nodes here. 35% less block chance. Can block damage from all hits while shield is not raised. What? You can block damage from all hits while shield is not raised? Holy crap, bro. How does that work with your stun threshold? I guess it doesn't affect it at all. Then we have the explode, so corpses in your presence explode when you war cry, dealing 25% of their life. It's physical, and then you can ignore your cooldowns on war cries. I mean, Warrior's got some sick stuff, but yeah, no spell stuff, man. I think we're gonna go Chronomancer on this one. So we got Pathfinder. I think we do Chronomancer here. And then I think I might want to look at Flicker Strike, which is probably Monk, I would say. Yeah, Poison Pathfinder, Death's Oath, probably Chronomancer. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Okay. Not optimal, but it is what it is. It's a cool Ascendancy though. Weapon Master, this is Witch Hunter, right? Yeah. 20 passive skill points become weapon set skill points. Huh. So if you really like swapping your weapons, you probably want this one. 2 is Calling Strike. They've changed it. Normal is at 30% or below. Magic is 20. Rare 10 and unique 5. They are checked before the damage of the hit is applied. Yeah, makes sense. We have Judge, Jury, Executioner. This one is very interesting. Hits against full life enemies remove between 5%, so not 0, that would be stupid, 5% and 30% life before the damage of the hit is applied. Yeah. And I think in the video they did like a 30% hit, which was like 245,000 damage or something. Witchbane is the anti-magic field known as the ward. Enemies have, oh, it's the concentration thing. You can interrupt enemies basically. They have a threshold for concentration. You hit them, they get interrupted, and it actually delays their abilities, which is kind of insane when you think about it. It's kind of nuts. Okay, 5, No Mercy. Deal up to 30% more damage to enemies based on their missing concentration. Oh. So if you want to deal more damage, I kind of like that actually, yeah. That's cool. Defensive option here is cool. Social Ward. It gives you the skill, so you can buff it with passives or support gems, which is nice. You have less armor and evasion, but the ward says it takes elemental damage from hits for you until depleted. The barrier instantly recharges to its full value a short time after it stops taking damage or is fully depleted. The question is how you want to support this with gems. That's going to be very interesting to see. It sounds like you might be able to break the heck out of this thing. Like reduce charge, or like it's going to recharge faster and like absorb more damage and stuff. Okay, this one is new, is it? 50% increased effective sorcery ward, and it recovers 50% faster. So you don't even need to support it, apparently. Never mind. That seems pretty insane, yep. And then Zealous Inquisition is the chance to explode, which is also kind of nuts. I feel like if you play Witch Hunter, it might be kind of hard to figure out what you want here. Because there's a lot of good stuff. Like a lot of good stuff. Holy crap. Also very badass. But I think for this build, we probably have to go with Chronomancer. I think this is the only one that makes sense. So, like, I like the synergy here, but the question is, how does it work with this? We don't have a cooldown, do we? We might add a cooldown. I mean, we could add a cooldown and we can do this and like reset. Because I assume Time Snap, I mean, it's a skill, so you can support it as well with support. Yeah, you can support all of these, which is very interesting to me. What would I want? You get 8 points. You get 6 and then the last 2 in endgame. So let's just say 6 because you go through the campaign, right? So before endgame, what do I want? Or like, what do you need maybe? 5 is cast speed. This is useless to us. I think I would go Apex. The slow around you makes sense because of what we're doing. So you want Apex, I think. Like Riku, I don't think is worth it, if I'm honest. I don't think this is a good idea, but I mean, I could be wrong. We'll see. I would go with this one, number 6, says 2 points. And then we can go Temporal Rifts. And this is the now and again. So Time Snap is all the way down here. So I think I would go on the left side probably. If I only have 6 points, I think I go with Apex of the Moment, and then you get Footprints, so you get Temporal Rift, which is the alter time thing, so you rewind. And then Time Freeze, where you can freeze everything around you. And it's like, if you go with this, it's like extremely defensive, which means, I mean, we could probably just not have, I mean, you don't need temporal chains. You could even remove the free stuff, but then you don't have any synergy. I mean, if cold damage, if this support does not work with the totem, then it's used, I mean, we might as well remove this and add like AoE, I think. Because I think AoE is going to be a problem. It seems kind of small. Does this one have Chronomancer? Area of effects. Area of effect for staff attacks. Well, wait, this one has area of effect of hex skills. We don't know these nodes here, but this is area of effect. That's kind of nice. Like, this is how close we are. So we start here, and it's literally up here. So depending on when you get the skill gems, you could go this early on. That's pretty cool. All right. Okay. Yeah, I think that works. So, this one is not updated. I did change a few things, but it's not final. And then I think this will work. I mean, it should work. I would be surprised if it's not working. Like, I mean, definitely should work. This one's level 21, the totem, so that's gonna take a while. Hex Blast is 41. Oh my god. So we need another way to deal single target damage, it looks like. Probably use like fire, cold, or I don't know, one of those spark maybe works or something. Blasphemy is level 10, 16 on Despair. The thing is, like, this one says level 1. So let's say that these are level 1, and you're like, okay, we're level 10, we can get Blasphemy. We can't use it. We have to wait till level 16. Yeah, so at level 16, if this works the way it says it does, we can actually do the Death's Oath aura thing. Could be. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Oh yeah, well, that's cool. All right. Well, I got some stuff done, but I'm a bit late, so I think I'm gonna have to call it now before it gets too late. Yeah, really cool video. This IGN video was great. The Ascendancies look, some of them look absolutely nuts, some not so much, but I guess we'll find out when we play the game. Updated Poison Pathfinder bits. I looked at the Ascendancy for this. Death's Oath is also, I mean, we made the first iteration. We're gonna have to change things here, but definitely Chronomancer. That's what it looks like, at least. So should be good. Yeah, I can't wait to play it. It's almost time. We can almost play it. Almost, sort of. It's like 2 days left now, roughly. Oh my god. All right. Well, I think tomorrow we'll try and clean this up. I kind of want to look at, can you make a Flicker Strike build? And that's Monk. So I don't know. We might do that tomorrow, probably, because then it's launch. So we gotta decide what we're playing. I was kind of thinking of playing this, but if this works, I kind of want to try it out. So yeah, tomorrow I want to see if there's another cool interview to watch and talk about, and then probably update these, see if there's anything new as well during the night. And if we have time, I do want to look at Flicker Strike, actually. See how that works. All right, cool. Well, I need to head off before it gets too late, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Yeah, we'll see what happens then. Huh?